Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, and I'm super excited to welcome to the show today someone that has been a teacher and a mentor and just such an inspiration to me. And she is based out in Colorado. She has been someone that I really look up to in both the yoga world as well as a coach. I've gone through many of her programs, her retreats, taken her classes, and I'm so excited to introduce her to the INA community today. So, Mary Beth LaRue is a seasoned yoga and meditation teacher, and she's also the founder of Embodied by MB, a collection of offerings really rooted in presence, nervous system, wisdom, and soul. All the things that we love over here on this show as well. This includes virtual slow flow classes, a somatic based teacher training, and a signature online coaching program and retreats. Through her journey, Mary Beth has taught at Wanderlust festivals around the world and developed custom yoga programs for rehab centers and professional athletes. She has really worked with all different types of clients, major corporations like Bank of America, Nike, offering coaching, wellness programs for Fortune 500 teams. Mary Beth resides, as I mentioned, she's out in the mountains now. She's on a mountaintop in Evergreen, Colorado with her husband and her son. And she really enjoys the simple pleasures in life. So trips, reading, savoring a good cup of coffee, enjoying time with her family, everything that nurtures the soul. So we're really excited to introduce you to Mary Beth, also known as MB. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, founder of Eno Wellness Collective. My wellness journey started with yoga, which led me down the path of exploring healing modalities like meditation, breath work, sound healing, mindset work, and so much more. This exploration inspired my mission to help others find what lights them up. Get comfortable and curious as we learn from experts, teachers, and creators who are lighting up their communities and living an inspired, expansive life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm super excited for our guest today. So I'm really excited to welcome Mary Beth to the show today. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here with you.
I was thinking about, when I first came into contact with your work, which was through a good friend of mine, Jenna, who you also know, who was like,
Oh,
let's go to Guatemala. I have this amazing teacher. Let's book the retreat. And then really being introduced to you through a multi-day, immersion in Guatemala, uh, just felt so connected to your work and through the yoga, but also through the work that you do around embodiment. So I think since I've taken your teacher training, I've done, your virtual classes, and I'm so excited that you're here and get to share a little bit of your work with the ENA community.
yeah, you really jumped in. You flew from Guam to Guatemala and didn't have a lot of idea of who I was. So it was such a cool connection and I'm so glad.
Yes. So today we're going to talk a lot about your work, and we're going to use the word embodiment a lot because that is really a lot of what you do. So before we jump into that, for people who are listening that might not know what embodiment is, or maybe they've heard it, they've seen it, but they don't quite know, what does it mean to be embodied? Can you share just from your perspective your definition of it?
Absolutely. So for me, embodiment, my favorite definition of embodiment is deeply present for direct experience. And if you've practiced with me, if you've studied with me, I say it a lot. And I think for me, that holds the essence of embodiment, which is being here for the whole experience, right? So we're not just filtering out the good times and we're taking in all of the different hues of life that present their self. And so I also love to think of embodiment is I'm a big journaler and writer. So I will always have my notebook with me. And my notebook can be filled with beautiful things and sentiments. However, if I'm not actually bringing those into action, they're just words. Embodiment for me is that congruence of walking your talk mostly for you. And so being present, being fully alive. I'm sure we'll discuss it a lot. But
Yeah, perfect explanation of it. And I know from taking your classes that you do say that a lot, like, being, deeply present for direct experience. And so I can hear that almost in the background when I think about the word embodiment too. So I know that right now you're in beautiful Colorado, especially getting to take some of your virtual classes where you have, beautiful background of just like in the mountains. But I know that you haven't always been there. You've taken a journey from, where you started and through a couple other places. So I would love to start off with just hearing a little bit about your path, what led you to Colorado and how your journey with yoga has evolved over those different locations and homes.
Yeah. I practiced yoga for the first time in college in Iowa City. I'm from Iowa. And I was drawn to it, but it wasn't the time. I moved to Washington, D.C. I was in magazines and I was pretty tethered to a desk, and that was a very foreign thing for me. And so I sought out yoga, and I ended up at a yoga studio sometimes twice a day, went on yoga retreats, like just was eating up yoga philosophy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like I was obsessed. And that's continued. And I did a teacher training there. I'm almost 42. I think I was 22 or 23 and ended up moving to Los Angeles. And that's where I really started to explore teaching and taught there and explored so many different options. Built a business called Rock Your Bliss with my best friend, Jackie Carr, a yoga and coaching business, and ended up yeah, my husband and I had a vision for Colorado. We loved LA, but we were done with big city life and hustle and bustle. And so we relocated to a mountaintop. We live at 8,400 feet elevation. We live in a tiny town, and it has been such a shift. And it's also been wonderful for my personal growth, my growth as a mother, as a wife, as a human, as a teacher. I am looking out my windows, and there are trees 360 everywhere around me. And that was what I wanted. And so that feels, yeah, it's like wild to look out and know that it's a vision embodied.
Yeah, it looks oh, you make me wanna move to Colorado when I see, all of the
Very
your
different life.
person teaching. So such a different life, and, I know that when I first got in touch with your work, I know that, one of the big parts of your journey before Colorado was also, getting to teach at big events like Wanderlust, like being in really big classes, right? And kind of going from this LA of yoga light like active kind of like vibrant lifestyle, and going to those events and teaching and then shifting really into I'm going to do this from my home, I'm going to do this from my living room, and I'm going to
Hmm.
bring the community with me. So I would love to know, because when I think about wow, going and teaching at a big festival, these big I've been to Waterless, so I know the big crowds and kind of the energy. Would love to know what that experience was for you, and then now teaching from your living room technically could be in your pajamas. How has that transition been?
Mm. And sometimes I am in my pajamas, which I'm sure you've noticed. I loved both. I would say the yin and yang of both experiences has been so wonderful, so dynamic. I am naturally more introverted, so this life suits me. And I learned so much getting in front of a lot of people. I was terrified in the beginning, like so nervous. And I trusted that I was there for a reason. It was part of my path, and I fell in love with the energy. Yeah, I enjoyed being kind of in communion with that amount of people. It's wild to see that many. I'm sure you've seen it at your festivals, like that many people moving at the same time, breathing at the same time. It is hypnotic. Like I would walk away and just feel so altered. And I started teaching virtually actually in LA, October 2019. So pre pandemic, I started teaching on Zoom. Live Kick, which is who I offer my classes through, had reached out, and I thought it was the strangest concept. And Yarden, the founder, was like, will you teach, would you consider teaching 3 classes on Zoom, maybe a one-time thing? And I loved it. And even in LA, like if you've been to LA, you know that going from one edge to the other could take you an hour and a half. So there were people that sure lived in LA, but I lived on the other side of LA. So practicing with me virtually was better. Like that was a better option. So so then the pandemic happened and I was teaching every day, sometimes twice a day. And that community just continued to build. Soul Rising would be DJing classes. We had to have dance parties at the end. Like it fed me, I would say, as much as the festivals. Like it felt so immersive and supportive and just seeing people. And I like would have a big TV screen so I could see people as I'm practicing. So I wasn't like looking at my computer. And so when we made the transition to move here, I got to bring my community with me. And they came with me, which felt so nice, to look into people's living rooms and to see their dogs and their kids and their coffee cups and the painting on their wall. And like, I just love that glimpse and to still maintain that connection. So I would say virtual yoga for me has been wonderful. Like, of course, I love to be in person, and I still feel very fed from teaching and practicing virtually as well.
Yes, and having taken your classes and knowing like it is really a different experience to get to just unroll your mat in the living room. And granted, because of the time zone that we're in, like I can't make your classes, live. So I love
Yeah.
that, Live Kick has the virtual or the recorded option for people. And when you mentioned Soul Rising, it made me think, he's been actually my number one Spotify number one artist for the past 2 years. And I really think it's
Oh,
because of you. Because of like initial, connect starting to listening to Soul Rising, and then he's like all over all my playlists, So
he's
there's
so
so much of
talented.
so talented. And I love
Mhm.
what one of the things that I've always infused into my classes that I know is a big piece of your classes too is the music, right? And like really creating
Mhm.
that slow flow and like finding the beat and finding that like breath to body connection. So that's, it's amazing to see that you're able to translate that from in person, festival life into your living room in Colorado. So if I'll definitely leave the links and all of that in the show notes for people
Oh,
to
thanks.
find you there. So I would love to get into embodiment, a little bit about embodiment, because I know that is, your sort of word, right? That word that really encapsulates a lot of the work that you do. So you touched on it a little
Mhm.
bit in the beginning, but I would love to even know where you connected to that word embodiment and realized, oh, okay, that's actually what I'm doing here. Like, what was that connection?
Oh, that all right. It sounds silly, but when I landed on that word and like really felt it in my being, felt it embodied, there is no better word. I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is not only what I want to offer, it's how I want to live my life. Present, eyes wide open, like feeling it all. And so what's funny, I'd have to look. I think it was end of 2019. It was in 2019 at some point. And I kept like trying to figure out what my word was, like we did in your session,
Hmm.
right? Which I love, by the way. I saw it the other day and I was like, yes, the lion by design. Um, and I just couldn't get there. And it was like, I think I told you this on our call, like I would send out a newsletter with like a new idea of what my brand would be. I would never tell someone to do that, but that's what I did. And then I'd be like, no, that wasn't it. I sent it out and it wasn't, yeah, that wasn't it. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm done trying. Like I just want to know, um, not I don't want to know. I want to feel into what's next, like what's meant to be. And I stopped trying and I practiced and I wrote and it just came. And it was like it's embodied by MB. It is embodied by MB. Like like it just, for me, it gave me breathing room because if you've practiced with me or if you know me, like nothing that I am trying to offer is around perfection ever. Like I want you to become the most you. and to not be looking outside of yourself, although it's hard and I do it too, but not to always be looking outside of yourself for that answer and to take the time to go in to know that it's there. And this is something I have to return to hourly to remember. Even I just posted something and I saw these words the other day, so I wrote them out, and it was, when you lose your mind, find your body. And just the simplicity of it, of like how often we're in a thought spiral or we're fixated on something or we're trying to figure it out. And it's like, go into your body, go into your body, go into your body. Like, I think that really is the essence of what I'm here to offer. And it's because I have had to and will always for the rest of my life continue to return to my body for healing. And there's so much work to do. And I'm excited about it.
Beautiful. That's I love that quote. Because it is so simple and it does, I think before I started teaching yoga, I had some sort of connection to my body through dance, right? Growing up dancing, but it really was through yoga that I built a connection of the connecting to the body, connecting to the breath, scanning the body, noticing what's coming up,
Yeah.
noticing where you need to pay attention. Like there's been so much of that deep connection to my body that's come on my yoga mat. I always talk about my yoga mat as like my safe space, right? It really is like
Yeah.
home base, such home base for so many people, that once you get, attracting people in that might be interested in yoga for, the physical aspect, and then the people that really
Hmm.
create the practice that's completely non-physical from it. So I
Oh,
remember that one of the workshops, I think it was, yeah, in the Guatemala retreat, one of the workshops you did with us was around embodiment. And you talked a little bit about when we shift from autopilot into intentional, like what parts of our day do we just go about almost like aimlessly, and when do we actually stop and make it intentional. So I would love to know from the work that you do now, how do you do that? Because so many people are getting up on their phone, right in their inbox, right? It's just like busy, busy,
oh.
busy. Like how do you slow down the pace?
Well, what's funny is before I signed on to talk to you, I picked up my son at school and it's like pouring rain here and I'm sitting in my Jeep and I looked at my phone and I went to do something on my phone and then I was like, what am I doing? Like I do not need to look at this. And I put it down and I just sat back in my seat and like felt the floor and listened to the rain dropping on the top of the car and looking out. And then I started to go into my body and notice how I was feeling. And for me, that's like, I do need to be reminded of it by myself or by someone else. And that is a constant practice, right? Even like this morning, I made my coffee and I like go to bed excited about my morning beverages. I'm a beverage
Me
person.
too.
So I like line up my little mushroom powder with the chaga, my cacao, my cinnamon. Like I love ritual too. So I like made my coffee and went and sat in the front room and just took a moment. And it's also easy to grab my phone and start looking through like, oh, this is what I have to do today. Here are emails. I'm human. I do both. But it's like, where do I want to send my energy? And also, we only have so much energy. So by the end of the day, when my son comes home from school, what do I have left? And like, what do like even being with him right now. And it was like, I felt so present. And because I took that moment before I picked him up and I paused. And I think the shifts don't need to be huge shifts. It can be the way you move through your morning, through your evening. It can be, even if you are going to look at your phone, like bring intentionality to it. Like, are you just doom scrolling? I have an Instagram account, another one that all I do is follow like poets and artists, and that's where I go. It's like Pinterest for me. And I always walk away from it like, oh, that, or like I have an idea. Um, Going on a walk. Like for me, it's like, even if it's something that I want to do because I want to feel healthy, I want exercise. At the same time, it's like to be aware of, like, am I on the phone the whole time? Am I checked out, or am I like paying attention? And living up here is wild, like going on walks and there'll be a fox, a little fox family walking by, or elk, or there's a bunch of horses up here. There's bears. Like, it's like walking through a wildlife park. So why not be so present, you know?
Yes, and I remember one of the exercises that we've done in one of your workshops or possibly the retreat was around creating this list of questions of things that you can ask yourself to kind of ground yourself. Have I drink water? I think one of the ones that you talk about is like, have I looked up at the sky, right? Or have I, like, what are these
Have I been
questions that we can
outside?
ask ourselves? Have I been outside? Yeah. So for people that a lot of people that come into my world, they're going through big transitions, especially in the coaching programs, big life transitions. They're leaving jobs, they're going through grief, their relationships are in need of healing. There's all sorts of things coming in. And I notice a theme with everyone is that everyone's wanting to just slow down the pace. They've been like busy and full for so long that it's almost at this point of burnout, because you have a number of different practices that you go to. What would you say are your top three questions? Like you mentioned that list I was talking about. What are those top three questions that you're like, okay, when I am just everything is a little chaotic, these are the things that really bring me back?
Oh, that's so good. And those are questions like I've been due for a rewrite of those. So I really like that. I would say, have I been outside? And with that, have I like looked around? Have I looked up at the trees? Like I said, have I looked up at the sky? Have I looked at the clouds? So have I been outside? Have I moved my body? And that can be that's like this. Like that could be rolling the shoulders, that could be just a simple lunge, like whatever. It could be a walk, but I do find that keeps me really present. So have I been outside? I would say have I had water, but like I feel like that has become probably one of like as I've become older, it's like, no, I'm pretty good at that at this point. Have I done something for the joy of it? Like not to share on Instagram, not to like check it off my to-do list, not because I'm, you know, trying to keep my cardio up or something like that. Like, have I done something for the joy of it? And that's something I see so much with students and humans of like, if we can really open our eyes to what's around us here, like here in nature, look around because there's so much pulling at our attention, at our heartstrings, rightfully. And what's right here for me to like the simplest of joys, even like that, like enjoying my coffee while it's hot. And I think as a mom, like, how many times have you left like something, in every room as you're walking around? And so, yeah, I think those three land for me right now.
Enjoying your coffee while it's hot. That's so perfect for such a
What are
simple
yours?
pleasure. I've started. It's funny. I was just thinking that used to be one of the things that was on my list, but I've now switched to drinking iced coffee for now as a way to not be disappointed when my coffee's not hot.
Oh, that's good job. You're managing
Can
expectations.
adjust. I would say mine are really going like super back to basics. I do really think about, if I'm feeling a certain way, I notice or I try to ask myself, what kind of space have I had in the day? Has it been like back
Mm,
to back to back where it makes sense? Or even if it's not back to back, but I'm using like so many different parts of my brain where I'm like, okay, I had to coach and then teach and then drive and then do this. Like when I notice that I'm doing all sorts of things in one day, I can get really tired and you just low energy. So I try to ask myself around, yeah, what space have I had? Can I even create for myself that day? I do really go back to around what have I eaten? What have I drank? Like, have I hydrated? What's the last thing I ate? Um, as just like a clue of I can typically, okay, it's been a while, or I skipped
totally.
breakfast, or whatever
Yes.
it's been, or I had something that would give me kind of like a crash in the afternoon. And then, yeah, I think the joy question comes back to me as well. It's like, when am I just doing something not, yeah, like, not for any specific reason? And the great thing about, and I know you have a little boy, is like, with with a little boy, it's just watching the joy and the wonder and just playing. Sky's really in a dinosaur stage right now, so it's very much like dinosaurs. We're just playing with dinosaurs, and it's like, it can be just like such a simple thing to bring me back to, like, oh, okay, just playing
Hmm.
and having that joy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I would say too, one of like my main practices these days is just laying on the floor. Like if things are going too fast, like on the hardwood floor, not even on my mat, like I will just be like, okay, I need to ground. And I will just lay down for like 5 minutes max. But just taking that pause. And I find whatever it is for you, like that helps stretch time and for me to notice like, okay, where has my energy gone today? Or what do I need? Like you said, like you at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'm tired. Like, of course you're tired. You've done a bunch of different things, right? And we have this weird expectation that's been pushed on us, like, oh, we're supposed to just keep going, going, going and seem inspired and seem rested and all of this. Like, no, it's like we're all different too. And so taking that time to check in.
I love it. And this work is obviously a practice, right? It's practicing every single day, even when during periods when it's really busy, or when it's, when we're going through things personally or professionally or whatever it might be. And I have found, when I know that we did some of this work together in our mentorship, was I found that coming back to values can be such a strong anchor of, like,
Mm,
how do I make decisions? How do I move through the world? It's like kind of a lens at which to look at all of it. And I do a lot of values work with my clients too, but whenever they do it in a program, I always redo it with them. And so I loved to get to do it with you, because then I got to have such a different perspective going into the values work. So I would love to hear, I know that you revise and revisit your values, but how do you use that kind of work, in embodiment?
mm. Yeah, we actually, so when we had Rock Your Bliss, Jackie would always lead the values work. And it was coaching session about rooting, about getting clear. And then I would bring that into embodiment. Like I said, like, how are you bringing that into action? So I just redid mine. They're right here. Um,
Nice.
I know that's it's so funny. Virgo behavior. Um, Connection, soulfulness, embodiment, I think those have always been there, but authenticity, congruence, and nature have come up. So, I think authenticity and congruence being, similar, I have them both on there for now, but with congruence, it's like my friend Jess described it as who you are on the inside is who you are on the outside. And I like to think of that as if you run into me at the library, or you take a yoga class from me, or we're on a retreat, or we're best friends, like that they're sure best friends will be a different level of like share and stuff like that, but that you're going to know that I'm the same person, right? That my values are present. And that's really important to me. And I think as I get older, it's also not only something I want to embody, but it's what I seek out in others. And so that one has felt really good for me. And then my business ones, which I added one that I'm really into, but embodiment, expression, connection, soulfulness, and permission. Because I just started a 3-year somatic training this weekend. I just finished last night, the first session. And I love somatics and embodiment because it's permissive. Like when I get on my mat, and I always have my mat rolled out, I was going to say that earlier, of like how you said, like, it's a comfort for you. But like, even when I see it, I feel differently, right? It's like, there it is. I know it's there. I'll get on it later. Um, and so the practice, though, when people come to me, I want them to know that however it goes is beautiful. right? If you come to class and you take Shavasana the whole time, I will be the most proud of you, right? Or you're shifting the practice to make it work for your body, or you need an extra chaturanga because that's what your body needs. Like and I'm just talking about the physicality, but like the permissive parts, how that provides grace and space. And I need that. And I wouldn't say I got very much of it from society. Like, even as a yoga teacher in the beginning, I always felt like I needed to be different. And that's why I created my training, because I was done with it. And I did not want someone like you, who is so special, so talented, so unique, to think they need to be anything other than what they are. Right. So, like, to take your strengths and grow them, and to have that, to give that to other people, other women.
Yes, the values piece, especially going back to the congruent, that word congruence. I actually haven't heard
Mhm.
that word in a while, but it totally is. Authenticity is a one of my core values, and the way that you describe that, though, of like who you see, and or regardless of where you are and what kind of role you're playing, you're still the same person, and that definitely resonates with me. And it does come up with how you find your people, right? And how you find
Yeah.
like friends at later stages in life is like how do you how do you connect with someone, and that's definitely a piece of what I look for as well. And
Hmm.
I think permission, I feel like that has been such a big part of me teaching yoga here on Guam, at least because I've only mainly taught here. When I got certified, I moved home and immediately started teaching, but because a lot of people, probably every class, someone's coming in, this is my first class ever, this is my first class ever, they're coming in, they're like, I got an injury, or there's something that's happening, right? So I've really tried to create as much as possible like this inclusive space of like, come as you are, take child's pose, like really customize it, like take it up a notch, down a
Hmm.
notch, like it's when you're teaching these like all levels classes, but then also when there's a lot of beginners coming through, I feel like that permission of like, however you came, just come onto your mat, right? And like how to how to infuse that into your teaching and into your practices. So I love that permission permission value for business too. I would
Yeah.
love
And
to
for you as
hear
the teacher, right? Oh, sorry.
yeah.
For you as a teacher as well, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like you're holding space. So,
For sure. Every week I always come with a different theme, and sometimes the theme is something physical, sometimes the theme is just like, here's what's coming up for me today, right? So like, here's what I'm hearing from my clients, or what I'm experiencing personally, or something that happened before I got to class. And so those, bringing those little bits in then shows like, okay, there's some intention behind what I'm creating. Um so yeah, I definitely resonate with those. So you had mentioned that you're just kicked off a 3-year training. That's a long training for sure, but I
I
would love to
know.
know what's drawing you to. So, first of all, how would you describe somatic work for someone that's like, again, I'm not sure what that is, or I hear about it, and why choose this training and to really dive into it?
Well, first, soma means of the body. So somatics is about going inward. There's so many different definitions of it. I really resonate with the work of Peter Levine. He wrote many wonderful books, which I suggest Googling, and maybe we could put in the notes. Waking the Tiger is one of them. And so I'm studying his body of work, which is somatic experiencing. So I'm studying through Somatic Experiencing International. And when I'm done, I will be an SEP, a somatic experiencing provider. And for me, the more I explore this work, I love teaching vinyasa. I love coaching, all of it. And I am finding as I get older that getting quieter and taking it down to like the most simple, the going back to simplicity, the return to the body is extremely healing. And so even today, as I like sat in the car and watch the raindrops, the ability to go into my body and notice how I was feeling and not even need to name it, but just feel a sensation in my heart, notice what was in my belly, notice how my legs felt, how those things were shifting. And that ability to go inward allows me to then show up in the world in an engaged way because our world is traumatizing, right? So, whatever you're going through personally, we live in a traumatizing world. And so, when we're holding all of this trauma, we're holding personal traumas, collective trauma, all of it, like there has to be tools in order to move it through. And so, that for me is this next journey. And when I first found somatics and I read so much about trauma, I was like, oh, this is so intense. And then I did the practices, and they're so kind and sweet and nourishing. And so, even though we're talking a lot about trauma, like it is deeply present for direct experience. Embodiment and somatics are this, right? And so they're one of the same. And I think too, I've been envisioning a lot like getting older and what I want to, how I want to um move through the world as I get older and like what I want to offer. And I can't imagine an age where I'm not working. I love, love, love what I do. And so like if someone said you have to stop working, I couldn't. Like I love it. I'm sure you feel similarly. Like it's like I am living my work, what I love. And so I love the idea of like being in my 70s and having, God willing, like being in my 70s and having all of this experience and getting to connect with people in that way. And so, um, yeah, the training's 3 years and it could be even longer than that. And I also consider like I'm going to be studying for the rest of my life as well. Like, I don't think I'll ever be done learning. And if I am, that means something went wrong.
I feel the same. I'm always going into this in student mode and just learning and digesting and then integrating and just I feel like I also feel that I does it feel like work because it feels so just on purpose. Like I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing and from a
Yes,
place of like this is the dharma, right? Um this is what what I'm meant to do. So it doesn't feel like, oh, okay, when am I retiring? It feels like, it's gonna
totally.
keep evolving. It's gonna keep evolving into
Hmm.
to new things too. So I love that return to simplicity and just, you know, getting older and starting to notice, what matters and how do I want to continue evolving. So a lot of people in my world, they are coming to me at it's funny. I do feel like, but maybe it's for retreats and people wanting to go on a retreat around a certain milestone. But I do find that a lot of people come into the retreats I host, and they're like, "Okay, I'm turning 40 this year. I'm turning 50 this year. I'm
Hmm.
turning 60 this year." And what's been really cool is that for a lot of my retreats recently, we've had women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And then my mom comes to over at my
Whoa.
retreats and she's in her 70s, so she really caps us off with the 70s. But it's been really awesome to see all these women come together. Ages just go out the window, and there's so much, just so much commonality and like really this feeling of connection. And so, you mentioned a couple times, like, okay, as I've gotten into my 40s, and so I would love to know just the wisdom right now of this decade for you. Like, what has your 40s been teaching you so far? What can you share with the audience that might be, maybe in their 30s or 20s and they're like,
Mm,
what what is it teaching you so far?
yeah. I love that you said that about your retreat. I got full body goosebumps because I do think that is so special. My mom comes on mine too often, and she's in her 70s. And it's like, yeah, I just love the array. And I also learn from everyone. And I'm sure you're similar. Like, I learn from everyone I work with. And that feels like such a gift. My 40s. Okay. So I have idealized this decade since I knew what age was. Like I was always like, my 40s, my 40s. Like aging hasn't really scared me. I always wanted smile lines, which I have now for sure. My dad has really deep ones that go all the way back. And so when I was little, I would like squint and try to get smile lines, which is so absurd and adorable. And I also, so I'll be 42 in like a week and a half. And I came in like with this idea. And this, so far, it's been pretty humbling. Like we've had major grief. We've been through a lot. And what I will say about my 40s is I trust myself so much and I have capacity. So it's been hard. Like there's been a lot of testing moments so far, and that's just life, right? That has nothing to do with my 40s. That's life. Stuff keeps coming. But what I love about this decade and who I'm going to continue to grow into is that I've gone inward in such a big way. And I feel like I don't abandon myself anymore. And that is what I've always wanted, right? So even as a teacher, as a mom, as a wife, as a human, as a friend, but like most of all in my relationship to myself, of like, there's so much more grace in that relationship and that I really enjoy my own company, which I honestly have always been an alone person, like an alone person, someone who loves alone time or an alone person. I'm always around people. I've always had a lot of community and I'm grateful. And I am someone who goes to be alone to to refill. And so my husband and son went back to see family and I stayed home and I was home for 8 days by myself in July. And some of my friends, it was so funny. They're like, "So what are we gonna do? Like, what do we have planned?" And I was like, "I'm probably not gonna see you. I'm probably not gonna see anyone." And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I like went on these long walks and I wrote and I laid in my hammock and I like get up, take care of our bulldogs, get my coffee and come back to bed and read. And it was just like it felt so I felt like I was at the Four Seasons in my own house, just giving myself that support, right? And it's like, I knew that I am not alone like that as much. Like, my husband and I both work from home, and I love that. And I also knew, like, I needed to savor that time, and I did. And I think earlier versions of me would have been like, I should fill my calendar because it's weird that I want to be alone. And now I'm like, no, this is just the way I was made. And
I'm
to my
totally the same
people,
way.
I love you. Yeah. And it's like I say to my friends, to my family, I'm like, I love you so much. And I just refill by myself. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I have a trip coming up in September for I'm going to lead a retreat and it's going to be the first retreat that I'm not that my husband and son will not be coming with me because they've been coming with me for the past couple ones. And so this will be the first flight I take without my son, the first time I have a hotel room, completely alone. I'm like, wow, my heart is so full thinking about that. Just I'm like recharging, and yeah, I spend so much
oh,
time with them. We both work from home too.
totally.
We're here I'm with my little one all the
Yeah.
time, so it's really nice to think about. Wow, that recharge that's going to come just from having a little bit of solo to getting to retreat a little bit as alongside my guests too. So
Hmm.
um, I could talk to you all day, so I will definitely. I want
Oh
to
my
wrap
gosh.
this up, but
So,
I do. I was like, I have, you're. I love just being in your presence because it does
hmm,
totally give permission, right? It does give permission to just be here and be present and drop in and slow down. And I think a lot of the listeners will feel that too when they listen to this. So for people
thank
that
you.
are wanting, yeah, of course, for people who want to work with you, I know people can, take your yoga classes. I'll leave all the links in the bottom, but what else do you have coming up? How can people connect with you over this fall season?
Yes. Okay. So Embodied, which is my signature program, which is combining somatic work, mindfulness, embodiment, that starts in October, near the end of October. And that's a 4-week program with a lot of support built into it. It's group coaching, but there's so much good, deep work within it. That's my website. And then my slow flow yoga training will be in February. And that's a 40-hour training. And I'm bringing in, which I'm going to add for past trainees as well, Liv, a lot of somatic work now too. So there will be some added modules on that and how to incorporate it into your practice and teaching some more understanding of the nervous system, because that's really not only where I see my work going, I think it is really how the yoga practice can be sustained as such a healing practice throughout all the stages of our life. And then I am going to open up one-on-one embodied and somatic work too. And that will be I'll probably open that up like mid-September or late September. So that will all be on my website.
Amazing. Guess I'll drop all the links for people in the show notes, and love just
Thank you.
the
Oh, my
array of
membership
offers
too.
that you have. Oh yes. Yeah,
Thank
your
you.
membership is monthly for all the virtual
Yeah.
classes, right?
Yes, 6 live classes a month, and then I have, like, I think around 450 plus at this point, I haven't counted, but 450 plus recorded classes. I know it's absurd. And I keep adding to that. So we do, like, a monthly intention setting and meditation, which I love. That's, like, a beautiful reflection. Slow flow and restore, 30-minute classes, 45-minute, and then embodied vinyasa, which is, like, a little more up-tempo, still my vibe, but, um yeah, and I love like, the embodied membership and just having people drop in, like, it's, like, hard for me to put into words how much I love it, and how excited I get when I see people take class, when they log on live, like, I am not a faker, it is impossible for me, unfortunately. I do not have the skill. I always see people and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not a networker, I can't do it." I genuinely feel so excited, like, it is a beautiful community, and I feel like it's been really healing for myself as well. So,
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for making the time. It was so, so great to reconnect with you. And I will be in your spaces very soon in whatever. I'm like,
mm,
sign me up
I
for
hope
all
so.
of it. Let me know your next retreat. Definitely gonna come to that. And yeah, I just
Oh,
would always
yes,
always love
please.
staying connected to you.
Well, you're such a gift. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please rate and review, and don't forget to subscribe. Learn more at enowellnesscollective.com and connect with us on Instagram at enowellnesscollective.